My family always said I was the useless one, the disappointment, the child who would never amount to anything. For 23 years, I believed them. But sometimes the people who underestimate you the most are the ones who end up needing you the most. My name is Emma, and I need to tell you about the day I realized I was invisible in my own family. I was 7 years old, sitting at the kitchen table with my crayons spread out in front of me. I'd spent the entire afternoon drawing a picture of our family: mom, dad, my older brother Marcus, and me. I was so proud of it. I'd even added our dog, Buddy, sitting right at my feet. I ran up to my mother, waving that picture like it was the most precious thing in the world. Mom, Mom, look what I made! She barely glanced at it. That's nice, sweetie. Go put it on the fridge. But before I could even take a step, Marcus walked in with his report card. All A's, as usual. Everything stopped. I mean, everything. My mother literally dropped the dish she was washing, thankfully into the sink, and rushed over to him. Marcus! Oh my God, straight A's again! Richard, come see this! My father came running from his study like the house was on fire. Within seconds, they were both hugging Marcus, talking about how proud they were, how brilliant he was, how he was going to get into an Ivy League school someday. I stood there, still holding my drawing. Nobody looked at me. Not once. I quietly walked to the fridge and put my picture up with a magnet. It stayed there for exactly 2 days before my mother took it down to make room for Marcus's report card. She threw my drawing in the recycling bin without even asking me. That wasn't an isolated incident. That was my childhood in a nutshell. When I was 9, I came home excited because I'd won third place in the school's spelling bee. Third place out of 100 kids. I was so proud. But my parents were too busy celebrating because Marcus had been selected for the regional soccer team. My accomplishment was met with a distracted, "good job," before they went back to discussing Marcus's athletic career. When I was 12, I taught myself to play guitar. I practiced every single day for months until my fingers developed calluses. I finally worked up the courage to play a song for my family during dinner. I made it through about 30 seconds before my father interrupted me. Emma, honey, that's really loud. Marcus is trying to study for his SATs upstairs. Maybe later, okay? Later never came. By the time I was in high school, I'd stopped trying to get their attention. I'd learned my role in the family. I was the background character in Marcus's story, the supporting cast member who existed only to make the star look better. And it wasn't just my parents. Marcus knew exactly what he was doing. He'd make subtle comments at the dinner table. Mom, Dad, you know Emma got a B on her chemistry test. I got an A on the same test when I took it sophomore year. Maybe she needs a tutor. Emma's still working at that coffee shop? That's so cute. By the time I was her age, I already had an internship at Dad's firm. Every single thing was a competition I didn't even know I was part of, and I was always losing. The worst part? When relatives or family friends would visit, my parents would spend the entire time bragging about Marcus, his achievements, his college acceptances, his job offers. I'd be sitting right there at the same table, and it was like I didn't exist. You must be so proud of your son, people would say. Oh, we are. Marcus is going to Harvard in the fall. And what about Emma? Oh, Emma, she's doing fine. She's still figuring things out. Still figuring things out. That was their code for, we don't really think she'll amount to much. The breaking point came during my college graduation. Yes, I did graduate from college, despite my family's complete lack of faith in me. Not from Harvard like Marcus, but from a good state university. And I'd done it while working 2 part-time jobs because my parents had told me they couldn't afford to help me with tuition. We already spent so much on Marcus's education, my mother had said, not even looking guilty about it. You understand, right? Besides, you're probably better suited for a state school anyway. I graduated with honors, a 3.8 GPA. I'd busted my ass for 4 years, working myself to exhaustion, studying late into the night, surviving on ramen noodles and coffee, and I had made it. My graduation was on a Saturday in May. It was a beautiful day. I'd sent my parents the invitation 2 months in advance. I'd reminded them multiple times. I'd even offered to help them book a hotel room. The morning of graduation, I was getting ready in my tiny apartment, hands shaking as I adjusted my cap and gown. I was nervous but excited. Despite everything, some small part of me still hoped they'd be there, still hoped they'd be proud. My phone rang. It was my mother. "Hi, Mom. Are you guys on your way? The ceremony starts at 2. Honey, I'm so sorry, but we're not going to be able to make it. My heart sank into my stomach. What? Why? It's Marcus. He has this really important presentation at work on Monday, and he asked us to come help him prepare for it this weekend. You know how crucial this is for his career. This could mean a promotion." I couldn't breathe. I literally couldn't breathe. "Mom, this is my college graduation." "I know, honey, and we're so sorry, but you understand, right? This presentation could change Marcus's entire career trajectory. Your graduation is wonderful, but it's just a ceremony. We'll celebrate with you another time, okay?" Just a ceremony. 4 years of struggling, sacrificing, working myself to the bone, and it was just a ceremony? "Is Dad there?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "He agrees with me, honey. This is the right decision for the family. We're so proud of you, though. Make sure someone takes pictures." She hung up before I could respond. I sat on the edge of my bed, still in my cap and gown, and I cried. I cried hard enough, I thought I might actually break apart. All those years of being overlooked, ignored, treated like I was less than, it all crashing down on me in that moment. But then something shifted. As I sat there, tears streaming down my face, I felt something else building inside me. Anger. Pure, white-hot anger. I was done. I was done begging for their approval, done hoping they'd see me, done being the invisible child. I wiped my tears, fixed my makeup, and went to my graduation. I walked across that stage with my head held high, and when they called my name, Emma Catherine Morrison, Bachelor of Science in Computer Engineering, graduating with honors, I smiled. Not for them, for me. After the ceremony, I went to dinner with my roommate Sarah and her family. They'd invited me weeks ago just in case my family couldn't make it. Somehow, Sarah knew. Her parents hugged me, congratulated me, told me how proud they were of me. My little sister gave me a bouquet of flowers. These people who'd known me for only 2 years showed me more love and pride in one evening than my own family had shown me in 22 years. That night, I made a decision. I was going to build a life for myself, a successful, beautiful, amazing life, not to prove anything to my family, but to prove everything to myself. And I was going to do it without them. The next 5 years were the hardest and best years of my life. I moved to Seattle for a job at a tech startup. It wasn't glamorous. I was basically a junior developer working in a cramped office, debugging code for 12 hours a day. But I loved it. For the first time in my life, I was somewhere where people valued my intelligence, my creativity, my work ethic. My family barely noticed I'd moved across the country. I got a text from my mom. "Seattle is so far, but I'm sure you know what you're doing. Marcus just got promoted again, by the way." I didn't respond. I threw myself into my work. I learned everything I could. I stayed late, came in early, volunteered for the projects nobody else wanted, and slowly, people started to notice me, the real me, not the disappointment daughter, not Marcus's less successful sister, just Emma, the talented developer who could solve problems nobody else could crack. 2 years in, our startup got acquired by a major tech company. It was a big deal, life-changing money for everyone who'd been there from the beginning. Suddenly, I had a 6-figure salary and stock options. At 25 years old, I had more money than I'd ever imagined. I didn't tell my family. They never asked how I was doing anyway. I bought a small condo in a nice neighborhood. Nothing flashy, but it was mine. Every piece of furniture, every decoration, every paint color, I chose it all. It was the first space in my life that was completely, authentically mine. I started investing. I'd taught myself about finance and the stock market, staying up late reading books and taking online courses. I was careful, strategic, and lucky. Some of my early investments paid off big time. By the time I was 27, I'd been promoted to senior developer. By 28, I was a team lead. By 30, I was a director of engineering, managing a team of 15 people and pulling in a salary that would have made my younger self's head spin. I'd also started a side business, consulting for other companies on software development and system architecture. It brought in almost as much as my day job. I was, by any measure, successful, comfortable, financially secure. But here's the thing. I still wasn't doing it for them. I was doing it for that 7-year-old girl whose drawing got thrown away, for the 12-year-old who never got to finish her guitar song, for the 22-year-old who sat alone in her cap and gown. I was healing myself. During those 5 years, my family and I barely spoke. I'd get the occasional text from my mother, usually around holidays, always mentioning Marcus's latest achievement. I'd respond politely but briefly. I never shared anything about my life. They didn't know where I lived. They didn't know what I did for work. Not really. When they asked, I kept it vague. Oh, I work in tech. They seemed satisfied with that, probably assuming I was in some entry-level position. They never dug deeper. They never really cared. Marcus got married when I was 29. I got a formal invitation in the mail addressed to Emma Morrison and guest. So impersonal. I sent a gift, a nice set of kitchen knives, something generic from the registry, and a polite note saying I couldn't make it due to work commitments. My mother called, upset. "Emma, how can you miss your brother's wedding? This is a family event." "I'm sorry, Mom. I have a really important project deadline. I can't get away." "Can't or won't?" "Does it matter?" She huffed. "You know, Emma, you've become so distant. We barely hear from you anymore. Family should be important to you." I almost laughed. Family should be important to me, after everything. "You're right, Mom. Family should be important. I'll try to do better." I kept my voice neutral, pleasant even. I didn't go to the wedding. I heard later from a cousin that it was beautiful, expensive, everything Marcus and his bride wanted. My parents had paid for most of it. I wondered if they remembered telling me they couldn't help me with my college tuition. Life went on. I traveled. Paris, Tokyo, Barcelona. I took up hobbies. I made real friends, people who actually cared about me. I even dated, though nothing serious. I was happy. Genuinely, authentically happy. And then, one Tuesday afternoon, everything changed. I was in a meeting when my phone started buzzing. My mother's name flashed on the screen. I ignored it. She knew I worked during the day. She called again immediately, then again. I excused myself from the meeting and answered. "Mom, what's wrong? Is someone hurt?" "Emma! Oh, Emma, thank God! I've been trying to reach you." She was crying, actually crying. My stomach dropped. "Mom, what happened? Is it Dad?" No, everyone's okay, physically. But Emma, we need your help. We need it desperately." I frowned. "What are you talking about?" She took a shaky breath. "It's your father's business. It's failing. We're going to lose everything. The house, our savings, everything. We've already taken out a second mortgage. We've liquidated the retirement accounts. Emma, we're drowning in debt." I was stunned. My father ran a successful consulting firm, or at least I thought it was successful. What happened? Bad investments, a lawsuit, some clients who didn't pay. It all just snowballed. We tried to fix it ourselves. We didn't want to worry anyone. But it's too late now. We're looking at bankruptcy, Emma. Bankruptcy. I'm so sorry, Mom. That's terrible. We need to borrow money. A lot of money. At least $300,000, maybe more. We've already asked everyone we know, but nobody has that kind of cash available. And then I remembered, you work in tech. Those companies pay well, don't they? Maybe you could take out a loan or ask your company for an advance. We'll pay you back, of course, once the business recovers. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. After 5 years of barely speaking to me, of not knowing or caring about my life, she was asking me for $300,000? Mom, that's a huge amount of money. I know, sweetie, I know. But we're desperate. We're your family. You'd be saving us. Her voice took on that edge I remembered from childhood, the one that said I was being difficult, being unreasonable. Have you asked Marcus? There was a pause. Marcus is in a different financial situation. He just bought a new house, and with the baby coming... Wait, Marcus is having a baby? Oh, yes. Didn't I mention that? His wife is 4 months pregnant. We're going to be grandparents. Nobody had told me. Of course nobody had told me. Marcus is tapped out right now. Every penny he has is going into the new house and preparing for the baby. We can't ask him for money. But you can ask me, I thought bitterly. Mom, I need to think about this. It's a lot of money and a big decision. Think about it? Emma, we don't have time. The bank is threatening foreclosure. We could lose the house where you grew up. The house where I grew up. The house where I was invisible, where my achievements were dismissed and my brother was worshipped. I need to go, Mom. I'm at work. We'll talk later. Emma, wait! I hung up. I stood in the hallway outside the conference room, my mind racing. $300,000. They needed $300,000, and they thought I could just, pull it out of thin air? But here's the thing. I could. Not easily, but I could. Between my savings, my investments, my stock options, I had that money. I had more than that, actually. The question wasn't whether I could help them. The question was whether I should help them. Over the next few days, my mother called me 17 times. 17! My father called 3 times, which was more than he'd called me in the past 5 years combined. Marcus even sent me a text. Hey sis, heard about Mom and Dad's situation. Really hoping you can help out the family. We all need to pull together right now. We all need to pull together. As if Marcus was contributing anything. As if this family had ever pulled together for me. I didn't respond to any of them immediately. Instead, I did something I probably shouldn't have. I hired a private investigator to look into my father's business situation. I needed to know if this was real or if there was something else going on. The report came back a week later. Everything my mother said was true. The business was failing, they were deeply in debt, bankruptcy was a real possibility. But there was more. The investigator found that my parents had recently funded a $50,000 investment into Marcus's new business venture, some tech startup he was trying to launch on the side. This was just 3 months ago, when they supposedly had no money. They'd also paid for Marcus's new car last year, a Tesla, $80,000. And that house Marcus just bought? My parents gave him $100,000 for the down payment. I sat in my condo reading through the report, and I felt that anger again, that same white-hot anger from my graduation day. They had money for Marcus. They always had money for Marcus. Money for his education, his wedding, his car, his house, his business ideas. But when it came to me, we can't afford to help with your tuition, Emma. You understand, right? I called a family meeting. I told them I was coming home for the weekend and we needed to talk in person. My mother sounded so relieved, she actually started crying on the phone. Oh, Emma, I knew you'd come through for this. I told my father, I said, Emma's a good girl. She'll help her family. I didn't correct her assumption. The drive back to my hometown took 4 hours. 4 hours to prepare myself for what I was about to do. Part of me felt guilty. They were my family. They were in trouble. Shouldn't I help them? But a bigger part of me, the part that had been hurt and ignored for decades, was ready for this. I pulled up to the house where I grew up. It looked like the same as always. The big colonial with the perfect lawn, the 2-car garage, the basketball hoop where Marcus used to practice for hours while my parents cheered him on. My mother opened the door before I could even knock. She looked older, more tired than I remembered. "Emma! Oh, sweetheart! Thank you so much for coming!" She hugged me tightly. I couldn't remember the last time she'd hugged me like that. My father was in the living room looking uncomfortable. Marcus was there too, with his pregnant wife, Jennifer. The whole family, together at last, for my money. "Emma, sit down, my father said, gesturing to the couch. "Can I get you something to drink? Coffee? Water?" "I'm fine," I said, sitting down. I placed my bag on the coffee table. My mother sat next to me, practically vibrating with anxious energy. "So, we've been looking at the numbers, and we think if you could loan us $350,000, that would cover the immediate debts and give us a little cushion to rebuild." "It's gone up to $350,000 now?" I interrupted. She looked flustered. "Well, there are legal fees, and we need to make sure we have enough to—" "I'm not giving you $350,000, I said calmly. The room went silent. You could hear a pin drop. "What?" My mother's face went pale. "I said I'm not giving you the money." My father leaned forward. "Emma, I don't think you understand the gravity of the situation. We could lose everything. This is our livelihood, our home." "I understand perfectly, Dad, and I'm still not giving you the money." Marcus stood up. "Are you serious right now? Mom and Dad are in crisis, and you're going to turn your back on them? What's wrong with you?" I looked at him, this golden child who'd had everything handed to him his entire life, and I smiled. "Marcus, when was the last time you asked me how I was doing? When was the last time any of you asked about my life?" "This isn't the time for—" "No, I think it's exactly the time," I cut her off. "Do any of you even know what I do for a living?" They looked at each other confused. "I work in tech," my mother said uncertainly. "Doing what?" Silence. "I'm a director of engineering at one of the largest tech companies in the world. I manage a team of 15 people. I make just over $400,000 annually, not including bonuses and stock options. I also run a consulting business on the side that brings in another $200,000 annually." Their mouths literally fell open. "You make $400,000? My father stammered. "Base salary, yes. With everything else, I cleared almost $700,000 last year." My mother looked like she might faint. "But how? When did this happen?" "Over the past 5 years. The 5 years where you called me maybe once every 2 months, always to tell me about something Marcus did. None of you ever asked what I was doing. You just assumed I was— what did you always say, Mom? Still figuring things out? Emma, if we'd known—" "You'd what? Been proud of me? Bragged about me to your friends? Or would you have just asked for money sooner?" I reached into my bag and pulled out the investigator report. I tossed it on the coffee table. "What's that?" Marcus asked. "That's a report on Dad's business finances and on all the help you've given Marcus over the years. The $100,000 for his house, the $80,000 car, the $50,000 for his startup just 3 months ago when you supposedly had no money." My mother's face went red. "How did you—" "It doesn't matter how. What matters is that you had money for Marcus, always. His education, his wedding, his every dream and whim. But when I needed help with college tuition, Sorry, honey, we already spent so much on Marcus. You understand, right? That was different, my father said defensively. Marcus had opportunities that required what, Dad? That required you to believe in him? Well, guess what? I had opportunities too. I just had to chase them alone. Tears were streaming down my face now, but I didn't care. Do you know what the worst day of my life was? It wasn't when you forgot my birthday when I turned 16. It wasn't when you threw away my drawings or told me to stop playing guitar because Marcus needed quiet. It was my college graduation. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. I worked 2 jobs for 4 years to put myself through school because you said you couldn't afford to help me. I graduated with honors, and you didn't come. You didn't come to my graduation because Marcus had a work presentation to practice for. Emma, we said we were sorry about that, my mother whispered. No, you didn't. You never apologized. You said, we'll celebrate another time. We never did. I stood up, slinging my bag over my shoulder. So here's what's going to happen. I'm not giving you $350,000, but I'm also not going to let you lose your home. Not because you deserve my help, but because I'm a better person than you gave me credit for. I pulled out an envelope and handed it to my father. This is a check for $150,000. It's enough to prevent foreclosure and cover the immediate debts. It's not a loan, it's a gift. You'll never have to pay me back. My mother burst into tears. Oh, Emma, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm not finished, I said coldly. There are conditions. First, you sell this house. It's too big for just the 2 of you anyway, and the maintenance is bleeding you dry. You downsize to something you can actually afford. Second, Dad, you close the business or you sell it. No more throwing good money after bad. Third, you both get financial counseling. No more bailing out Marcus every time he has a new business idea. Marcus stood up, furious. Excuse me? This has nothing to do with me. I turned to him. Doesn't it? You're 35 years old, Marcus. You have a child on the way. Maybe it's time to stop letting Mom and Dad fund your lifestyle and stand on your own 2 feet, like I had to. You're being incredibly selfish right now, he spat. Am I? I'm giving them $150,000 of my own money. How much are you contributing? He didn't answer. I looked back at my parents. Those are my conditions. Take them or leave them. My father nodded slowly. We'll take them. And Emma, thank you. Truly. There's one more thing, I said, my voice softer now. I need you to understand something. I didn't build my life to spite you. I didn't become successful to prove you wrong. I did it because I had to, because nobody was going to save me or believe in me but myself. I walked toward the door, then turned back one last time. I would have given you everything. If you just loved me like you loved him, if you'd just seen me, I would have given you anything. But you didn't. And now $150,000 is all you get. Not because it's all I have, but because it's all you deserve. I walked out of that house and I didn't look back. I got in my car and drove for an hour before I had to pull over because I was crying too hard to see the road. But they weren't sad tears. Not entirely. They were release. Like a weight I'd been carrying for 30 years had finally been lifted off my shoulders. The next few months were strange. My parents sold the house and moved into a modest townhouse. My father closed the business and took a consulting position at another firm. They went to financial counseling just like I'd asked, and they started calling me, really calling me, not to ask for anything, but to talk. At first, I didn't believe it was genuine. I thought they were just trying to butter me up in case they needed more money later, but it kept happening. My mother started asking about my work, my life. My father sent articles about developments in the tech industry with little notes. Thought you might find this interesting. It was awkward, it was uncomfortable, but it was something. Marcus, on the other hand, didn't speak to me for 6 months. When his daughter was born, I sent a gift, a college savings bond for $10,000. He sent a short thank you text, nothing more. But about a year after our confrontation, he called me. Emma, it's Marcus. I know, caller ID. There was a long pause. I've been thinking a lot about what you said, about standing on my own, about how mom and dad treated you. And you were right, about all of it. I was spoiled. I was given everything and I took it for granted. And I never once stopped to think about what that meant for you. Okay, I said quietly. Jennifer and I went to therapy. We're working through some stuff. And one of the things my therapist made me realize is that I've never actually had to struggle for anything. Every time things got hard, mom and dad were there to catch me. And that didn't make me stronger. It made me weak, entitled. Emma, let me finish, please. I watched you build something real, something you earned. And instead of being proud of you, instead of celebrating you, I think I was jealous. Because you did it without help. You did it despite everything. And that made you stronger than I'll ever be. I felt tears building in my eyes again. I'm sorry, Emma. I'm sorry for how I treated you growing up. I'm sorry I never stood up for you. I'm sorry I took everything and never questioned if it was fair. You deserved better. You deserved so much better. Thank you, I whispered. That means a lot. I want to be in your life, really in it. Not just Christmas cards and obligatory texts. I want my daughter to know her aunt. I want her to know what real strength looks like. We talked for 2 hours that night. Really talked, maybe for the first time ever. Things aren't perfect now. They're probably never going to be perfect. My relationship with my family is still complicated. There's a lot of hurt that can't just be erased with apologies and intentions. But it's better. Slowly, painfully, it's better. My parents came to visit me in Seattle last month. It was their first time seeing where I live. My mother cried when she saw my condo, saw the life I'd built. She said, "I'm so proud of you, Emma. I should have said that a long time ago. I'm so, so proud of you." It's what I'd wanted to hear my whole life. And now that I'd finally heard it, I realized I didn't need it anymore. I'd already become the person I needed to be, with or without their approval. Here's what I learned from all of this. You can't force people to see your worth. You can't make them value you. The only person who needs to believe in you is you. My family treated me like nothing for most of my life. And when they finally realized what I'd become, what I'd achieved, it wasn't because I set out to prove them wrong. It was because I set out to prove myself right. Right to believe in myself. Right to invest in myself. Right to choose myself. When they came to me desperate and broken, I could have turned my back completely. Part of me wanted to. Part of me wanted them to feel even a fraction of the pain they'd caused me. But that's not who I am. I'm not the person who abandons family when they're down, even if they abandon me emotionally for years. I helped them on my terms. I set boundaries. I demanded change. And I didn't let them off easy just because they were in crisis. You know what's funny? That $150,000 I gave them, it's less than they spent on Marcus. Less than his education, his wedding, his house down payment, his car failed business ventures combined. But to them, it was everything. It saved them. And maybe that's the real lesson here. Sometimes the child you overlook becomes the one you need the most. Sometimes the useless one is the one who saves you in the end. I don't regret helping them, but I also don't regret making them face the truth of how they treated me. Both things can be true at the same time. These days, I'm building something new with my family. Not a do-over of the past, that's impossible, but a different future. One where I'm seen, where I'm valued, where I'm not just Marcus's little sister or the disappointment daughter. I'm Emma. I'm successful, strong, and whole, and I did it myself. If you're the undervalued child in your family, if you're the one who's always overlooked, always dismissed, always forgotten, I'm here to tell you, your family's opinion of you doesn't define your worth. Their blindness to your potential doesn't limit your future. Build your life. Build it strong. Build it on your own terms. And if the day comes when they finally see you, when they finally need you, you get to decide what that means. You get to set the terms. You get to choose to help, how to help, or whether to walk away entirely. Because you're not the useless one. You never were. You're the one who was strong enough to bloom even when no one was watering your roots. And that, more than anything else, is something to be proud of.